Good evening, all. This is Will again with Ignition Core Games. And in the interests of getting more comfortable, getting in front of the camera, talking about my company, putting my face to the product, I'd like to keep doing these videos as often as I can. I'm hoping to get 2 a week, maybe 3 a week out to you, and we'll see how that goes depending on how things compete for my time and my attention and my scheduling as I work to get this out to you and then still continue to work a day job. So tonight I didn't really have one key topic I wanted to drill down on, so there's 3 mini topics that I wanted to talk about. My approach to Ignition Core Games and why I'm not using a crowdfunding platform at this time. Some of the early design choices that have gone into this. And then lastly, with my first and favorite faction, the Paladin faction, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about them. So first off, we'll start with Kickstarter and crowdfunding. Kickstarter is a great tool. It's a great tool especially for small companies that need it. And it's certainly something I could have used. I could have taken my idea 30, 40, 50% complete, pitched it to a Kickstarter audience, marketed it, brought in an amassed amount of crowdfunded dollars, and then taken the next year, year and a half, 2 years to develop and playtest and perfect Ignition Core, and then a year, 2 years after you've given me your money, I deliver your product, assuming I've made good financial choices. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bring a product to you that I wanted to shorten the turnaround time from the time you paid for your models to the time I got them to you. So behind the scenes for years, I've been working on this concept. Last year in March, I really drilled down and started paying the development costs out of my own pocket, out of my own hobby dollars. And I got it to a point where it was developed enough that I could post the rules. I could get the 3D files to a resin caster here in the United States, and I could get the product out to you. Average time, it's been about 4 to 6 weeks from the time I advertise pre-orders to the time I'm able to get the pre-orders fulfilled so far. I have 2 out of these 3 factions in stock, the Oni faction and the Paladin faction, and the Valkyrie one is at the factory right now, and although we hope to get it much sooner, I've set a date of February of this year. So in just a few weeks, the Valkyrie models will be going out to everyone that pre-ordered them. It has been challenging. It's been challenging. I've incurred a greater risk, but at the same time, I want my community to get their models as soon as possible. Any questions about that, post them in the comments and I will answer them as best I can. Next thing I want to talk about, so mecha. We've all seen mecha anime and they all have a certain look to them, a very certain distinct look that I was going for. I said in the first video, heavily inspired by Mobile Suit Gundam, particularly, I mean, the old ones, the classics are always great, the original Gundam Wing. I love Gundam 00. With that said, I wanted to try and capture that Mobile Suit Gundam design, but I wanted to make it somewhat different and yet somewhat familiar still. So to this day, I don't think we've really seen tabletop anime mech games quite like this, but you know, what else is familiar to us? Well, RPGs were very near and dear to my heart growing up. They have been and they continue to be. That's why we have a Paladin, we have a Valkyrie, and then we have the Oni, you know, after the mythological Japanese Oni yokai demon. So while these are still very anime-inspired mechs, they also have connotations that are going to be familiar to people that played fantasy games and were into fantasy fiction. And I'd like to continue to lean on that as I develop new factions. I want something that's familiar and yet new at the same time, or showing you something you're familiar with in a new way. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about my favorite faction, the Paladin faction. this is the faction. It's while it seems vanilla, you know, it's the very Gundam-esque anime mech. I added a few features into it to give it that Paladin Knight Protector flavor. So those of you familiar with the rules, you know, this guy, he has the Aegis shield system. So it allows him to tank for other members, other mechs or dropships, friendly, that are within range of him on the table. He has his gunblade. So there is his Paladin sword retracted into the back of his minigun. And then his alternate weapon was named the Lancer Beam Rifle to keep up with that knightly Paladin theme. We have Crusader miniguns on the little guys and Defender handguns. The smaller mechs, we called them Sentinels. We're going with that whole Paladin Protector theme. So I've seen a lot of love for the Valkyrie faction and the Oni faction, and I'll talk a little bit more about them, just their theme and some of the influences that really made me want to make those factions as well. But tonight for this video, I just want to show a little love to the vanilla Paladin faction. Other than that, you can expect more videos to come as time goes on, and over time I'm going to get better equipment. I already have a mic for better sound quality that should be arriving tomorrow, and as Ignition Core Games continues to grow, I'll get better lighting, I'll get a better camera than a front-facing iPhone camera, and we'll continue to do this, and hopefully you'll continue to show up, like, subscribe, and support this channel. By the way, if you support what I'm doing, it helps me if you like and subscribe on this video. At any rate, at this point, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon with new content.